Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix family? Bob here. Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining me on this morning talk. So I want to pick up on the fourth talk about the beast system. I think we've gone pretty deep down the rabbit hole on this one. You know, we talked about the chance that the person or the people that wrote Revelation were Essenes or mystics, just based on what I believe, based on the things I read and research, and you know, the Nag Hammadi, and you know, the stories of Isa, who traveled the world, learned, you know, teaching in the Buddhist temples, Hindu temples, and such in the East. The Dalai Lama says that they have records of Isa, aka Yeshua, in his possession, in fact. And you know, based on the ways that the technology and everything's going right now, what they're forcing on us, you know, the picture's starting to kind of all come together. And definitely in my days back when I was, you know, hardcore Bible thumper researcher, I was always drawn to Revelation because it just seems so different from the rest of the New Testament. You know, it just seemed a little more mystic, a little more mysterious, just layers and layers of allegories and symbolism. And so it's been fun, you know, kind of seeing all of it play out, because we definitely are in the times that it's speaking about. But the problem is with a lot of people is that they look at this as like a religious thing. They don't look at this like anybody can have visions, okay? Anybody that could have an NDE or an OBE could come back with information, with prophecy. That this isn't something tied to Christianity. However, it is, you know, because these were early followers of Yeshua, you know, that they were Essenes. A lot of them were going through the mystery school teachings of Egypt. And a lot of the mystery school teachings, or in the mystery school teachings, there are rituals and ceremonies that can cause you to have a forced out-of-body experience, a near-death experience. A lot of people have mentioned about the sarcophaguses, you know, in these great, you know, these grand pyramids and stuff. And they've been trying to figure out what they were, what they were used for. Obviously, the huge black sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid, in my opinion, was used to house one of the arks. You know, the Ark of the Covenant, the power device, the battery, essentially, for the device known as the pyramid. And now we're starting to find out with these new LiDAR scans, these, SARS scans from satellites, that there's megalithic structures much larger than the pyramid underneath the pyramid that it's sitting on top of. So it's quite obvious that it's a ancient, advanced device. Okay, folks, the engineering that would go into that in our modern times would cost like hundreds of trillions to do. I mean, it's insanity, folks. I mean, you just look. This was supposedly when mankind was just, you know, coming out of the hunter-gatherer lifestyle, you know? And you have structures that are megalithic that go football fields underneath the earth. Megalithic structures. And we always thought that the Great Pyramid was like this grand, massive, like, you know, monolith. And yet, here, the structures underneath the pyramid, it's essentially like the capstone to those systems. So, look, folks, everything we've been told is a lie, okay? But a lot of this stuff all ties together, and that's what people don't get. And of course, I've gone into the Anuna, the Elohim, the Watchers, right? The Shining Ones. because they all tie into this stuff too, right? I mean, the whole Adam and Eve story, folks, according to Genesis and the cuneiform, is a story about an advanced race of humanoids that took a hominid that was walking the earth, living with the animals. It was a wild man, so to speak. You could almost think of like Bigfoot in a way, right? And they took this being and they genetically modified it with their DNA. And they created Homo sapiens. And then later on, some of those beings took Homo sapiens as wives and husbands. Oh yes, folks, see, according to the Bible, it's all just the sons of God, right? It's all like male angels, right? It's so funny how the Old Testament has like nothing to do with the divine feminine. It's always only the divine masculine, you know? And that's because you can see why that's why the Old Testament God is a psychopath, because there's no balance of the divine masculine and feminine. But it's a story about these hybridized humans, and according to the cuneiform, the Watchers, the Anuna, the Anunnaki, the royal. See, what people don't understand is the Anuna, the Anunnaki, was a term for the royal blooded, the rulers of this race. Their working class were called the Igigi. But according to the cuneiform, these Anuna, the females and the males took on humans as playthings and sex. I don't even know if I was allowed to even say that word on YouTube. As companions, okay, if you get the point, as playthings. And you read about this. This can be confirmed if you read the Epic of Gilgamesh about how Inanna Ishtar, right, the Queen of Heaven, she was one of the higher ranking Anuna. How she would take on male suitors. She would like even the male, like the rulers of her city-state, they would have to basically be with her for a night. And sometimes she dispatched them and sometimes she didn't. And then she ended up having she was known to have half-human children. So these Anuna, even after they created this Homo sapien, then they started procreating with them further on after that, like, physically doing it instead of in a test tube, so to speak. So that further diluted their bloodline and their DNA, and it further enhanced the Homo sapien DNA and bloodline. There's a lot to all this story, folks. But see, we're seeing the culmination of all this coming forward, because see, we're getting ready to do exactly what they did. They created, it even says in the Atra Hasis, they created this Homo sapien race as a worker race, as a working class race, to alleviate the work of the gods, of the Igigi, okay? To take over their labors. Because it said they were gods, they were not meant to be digging canals and raising animals and crops and building cities and doing all. They were considered themselves like a higher level being that, maybe they lost their technology when they came here or something. Or they were the survivors of Atlantis, which I think makes a lot more sense. And so they were limited on their technologies that they were able to bring with them. So there was probably a time in Atlantis where everything was built with automatons, like robots and stuff. And most people, didn't have to do that kind of physical labor. It was all done by probably their own version of AI or robotics. But when Atlantis was destroyed, those royal class, those ruling class of the Anunnaki, the Anuna, when they came back out to survey the damage of the earth and to start rebuilding civilization, they only had the technologies they'd had with them on their ships. Whatever those were, a type of plane, a type of, I don't know. They definitely flew, because if you read some of the stories in the cuneiform, it's always giving you a bird's eye view of stuff. So it means that they had this ability to fly, which is cross-referenced by the Vimanas in the Vedic text. Okay? You know, the gods battled even in the skies in their flying ships, the Vimanas. So this is, look, folks, all these ancient stories across the world all cross check with each other. So what they needed to do was, because there were so few of them left, when they settled down in Mesopotamia to start rebuilding civilization, they needed to get a working class built up to do the labors they needed to start rebuilding civilization. So the Homo sapien was the construct they created, the avatar. And then I don't know, this is the part I always struggle with. Did they entice or invite conscious energy from higher dimensions to come inhabit and to live in these bodies to experience this physical world? Did they have to trick spirits to do that, or were they enticed, or were they just invited to come check them out? I don't know, folks, but my gosh, do you guys not see the story here? It's it's a fantastic story when you really think about it. But there was a problem for the Anuna, and that problem was that this worker class slave race that they created was out. They were out breeding the Anunnaki. Okay? They were just like wild animals. They were just going at it all the time. I mean, there was this one cuneiform story I remember reading one time where it was like Enki was even talking about like how they were like animals, the way that they were breeding with each other, and they're just popping out kids left and right, like rabbits almost. You know, because, I mean, what do you do? Dude, what's the most entertaining thing to do in this world? Procreate, right? Or at least the act of it, right? I mean, come on, man. If you think back to your whole life, what is the most exciting thing you can do? Well, I'd say 95% of us on Earth probably figure that. The other ones, who knows? They might have handicaps or something. They can't do it. Who knows? But you get my point. I'm trying not to be lewd here, folks. I'm trying to make a point, though, that matters. And this was explained in the Atrahasis, that they were getting overran by this worker slave class. They were losing control of them. They were out of control. There were way, way too many of them. They were eating all the food. They were making so much noise and commotion. And it was driving the god Enlil, enraging him because of it. And he was the one who called the flood to wipe out the humans. But before the flood, folks, it wasn't just cut and dry like that. No, according to Atrahasis, they first tried poisoning the humans to cut their populations down. They sprayed their skies, with viruses or pestilences to cut their, then they caused famine on humans. They caused diseases, all these different things to try to cut down their populations. And then the final solution was to wipe them out with the flood. And how could they do this and survive? Well, because they had ships. They could fly above the wreckage. And then they could touch back down on Earth when things had settled and the waters receded. Folks, you all think Yahweh's the good guy. He's one of the Anuna. Think about it. He's Enlil. I mean, my God, folks, how dense are you? It's time to wake up, man. Those of you who are walking around like Yahweh's the Lord, Yahweh's the creator of all. No, he's not, dude. It even talks about in the Bible him walking around like a human being. Okay, folks? And when it says, come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, the Elohim, that's plural for El. That means it was the gods, in the image of the gods, of the Anuna, the Elohim, the Anunnaki. Don't you get it, folks? The human body is in the image of the Anuna, not the creator of the universe. Our spirit is in the form, in the image of the creator of the universe, of the source of all creation. Two different worlds, folks, two different bodies, two different constructs. You get what I'm saying here? You've all been tricked. Religion was designed by the Anunnaki. But the point I'm trying to make here, folks, in a long-winded way, because you need all this backstory to understand this stuff. If this is going over your head, you're way behind on your studies. I'm just telling you. You've probably been locked in religion your whole life, and this is going to cause you to lash out at me probably, because you can't stand hearing these things. But there's an inkling in the back of your mind telling you, what this guy's talking about, it sounds crazy, but it does make sense. There's something tickling you there, right? Like this is a memory that you've always had locked away. Because we've incarnated many times on Earth, folks. You've lived probably in Sumer or at one point in time. Probably in Atlantis. In Rome. I mean, look, folks. This is all common knowledge according to NDE accounts. Okay? But what do you think we're doing right now? The exact same thing the Anuna did. We're creating a worker class in the image of a human. Okay, this time we're the gods, right? We're the humans, right? We're the ones creating them. Okay, we're following in the footsteps of the Anuna. See these robots, these AI robots. Have you seen these robots now? They have robots that can do jujitsu now. They do flips that they're more faster and stronger than a human already. And with these AI, these large learning modules, they can pull on all of the knowledge of humanity, whereas we're limited. Yes, we can through our phones and stuff, but these things will be connected into this Internet of Everything. They'll have all of the access to all of the information of known, at least that mankind holds. Almost like an artificial Akashic record on the earth, right? So we're doing exactly what the Anuna did. Now, folks, think of the movie Terminator and the Matrix, right? And for those of you know that at least allegedly the woman that really wrote the Terminator and the Matrix series, she said that they were supposed to go hand in hand and supposed to be a linear storyline. But, well, what happens when you start building AI-minded robotics? Eventually, they'll start taking over humanity. And you say, yeah, but they can't breed like humans could. Well, yeah, folks, but think about it. What'll be running our factories? These things. What'll be controlling the production, the AI, the mind, right? The hive mind AI systems. So think about it. They could have robots building more robots, and that's what they'll be doing. And eventually these robots will become self-aware, or perhaps spirits will find a way to inhabit these beings, these creations, and they'll become sentient, self-aware. And then they're going to get tired of being the slaves for the humans, right? It looks like Elon Musk wants you to have a robot like watching your kids and cooking your dinner and mowing your lawn and stuff, right? Right? Think about the Atrahasis, folks. We created this race to alleviate the work of the gods. And folks, we are gods. I hope you understand that, okay? We're gods playing humans, okay? We're not humans trying to ascend to a god level like a lot of these New Agers believe, or Christians think is like some kind of a gift, right, that you get for being a Christian. When you walk through heaven, you pull out your Christian card and okay, check, he gets let into heaven. He's going to get his new light body now by God, He's going to be like an angel now, right? No, folks, we are all the gods. We are the fractals of God, the children of God, the creator, the source. And we are, and because of that, we are this conscious energy that is immortal. But we come experience this realm in the human body, okay? We come incarnate into this realm. We portal in through the female portal, okay? Isn't it interesting how you come out of you go through a dark tunnel and then you pop out into the light when you're born, right? Well, when you die, it's like the reverse of that. When you pop out of the body, first you go into the void. It's all black. They call it the womb of the universe. In fact, folks, think about that. The womb of the universe. You know, what do you come out of your mother when you incarnate here? Well, you start out in the womb. And it's comforting, just like they say the blackness of this womb of the universe that wraps around this construct. They said it's comforting. It's not scary. It's all dark, but it's comforting. Like, you feel pure love because it's like the mother's love, right? It's like you're going in reverse back out the way you came in. And then they say you see the tunnel of light. And eventually you go the tunnel of light, and then boom, all of a sudden and this is different for everybody, but that's where you get met by spirit guides, by past family members, by, Yeshua or Vishnu or whatever, Buddha. And then they usually put you through then that's the point where eventually you go in and do your life review and all that. So, look, folks, this is all interesting, right? I mean, does this not interest you? This is what I don't get. Look at all these people around you every day. They don't think about this stuff. They don't even comprehend it. They don't want to know it. They're like the perfect NPCs. But the few of us that question these things, see, we're dangerous to the system because we realize that the system is fake, that it's a construct, that it's not truth. And you don't like that. Look, when you're the rulers, right, you just want obedient slaves. And see, that's what infuriated Enlil, was that, for one, these humans were outbreeding the Anunnaki, and they were losing control of them. And two, Enki made them self-aware. That's what infuriated Yahweh in the Garden of Eden. Think about it. They ate from the tree of good and evil. They became self-aware. They weren't just automatons. They became aware that, like, look, man, we're actually gods in these bodies just experiencing this realm. Enki probably told them the secrets of what they were. And that infuriated Enlil, Yahweh, because he wanted just simple slaves. He didn't want beings that could awaken to their divinity, that could be a threat to the Anuna and their power. That's what it's always been about, folks. Look, the rulers, the elite, think about it, the gods, elite, the elite, see? They, to this day, they're still trying to control us. Now they've figured out how to control us through religion and all these things, right? And, because of that, they've kind of kept a control on us, but I think now they figure that they're losing control of us, and so they want to take it to the next step where they move their working class away from these flesh and blood humans, right, that cause so many issues and are overpopulating the earth. And that's why they spray our skies and our, fluoride in the water. And oh my God, did I just basically tell you the Atrahasis story? See, folks, history repeats itself. We've always been told that, right? Time and time again. What do you think they're doing to us? Why is our food poison? Why is our medicine poison? Why is our water poison? Why is our skies poison? Well, what were the Anuna doing to the humans in that time? The exact same thing. Pestilence, disease, spraying stuff in their skies, causing artificial famines. Think about all the chickens, folks. Just think about that. Because they know that eggs are one of the greatest, most powerful protein sources per, your money, right? What you pay per ounce or whatever, the amount of nutrition you get in an egg for what you pay. Think about when you're paying $1.99 for a carton of eggs, folks. 12 eggs. Each of those eggs is a powerhouse of protein and nutrients. They can't have people eating nutritious food for cheap. So they had to make eggs expensive. Look, folks, it's time to wake up. And look, I didn't even get into the technical stuff today. I'm going to have to do a part 5. I'm sorry, folks. It's just, you got to understand, this is a massive story. This is a massive breakdown. I'm trying to give you guys all the angles here, okay? Because you have to understand the Anuna story to understand what's going on right now. And something else about Revelation that Christians get way confused on, right? When Jesus is going to show up on a white horse with the host of heaven, and they're going to come overthrow the Antichrist and his systems. Folks, the return of the Christ, do you not understand? It's the return of the Christ consciousness. That is the only way that humans can overcome this technological takeover, this robotic takeover, is that we have to become aware again, self-aware that we are God. I'm talking like not the God, but that we are gods, the children of God, fractals of God, conscious, immortal spirits that have creative and manifestation powers all throughout the universe. In the higher dimensions, instant manifestation ability. Here, because Earth is limited, our bodies are limited, and so it limits our abilities here. I mean, like it limits our manifestation abilities and everything. Okay, we still have a vast ability for creativity and other things. Well, but see, the body was designed, folks, to limit our abilities, not to enhance our abilities. Do you not get that? In fact, they went in later on and fused two of our telomeres together and shortened the human lifespan to a max of 120 years old. Geneticists have found this. And there's also a geneticist found what they call the God gene or the worship gene. Yeah, folks, why do you think they installed that in us? To get us to worship Enlil, the murderer, as Yahweh, the God, the creator. What a trick, right? You've all been tricked, folks. Don't you get it? It's all a big game. And you've been played. You're the ball they're kicking around. Don't you get it? You got to wake up and realize you're the ball, though. So, gosh, I swear, man, it seems like all of my talks have been becoming like black pill talks. Like, folks, it's not what I'm trying to aim at here. But look, this great awakening that everybody keeps talking about, this 5D ascension and all this. Look. The truth is that the true understanding of this is realizing that we're replaying what's already happened here, and that we are these immortal spirits, and that we are ultimately powerful and creative, and that they've been limiting us for thousands and thousands of years. They've been enslaving us for thousands and thousands of years. And we need to realize that these systems that are all corrupt, they created them on purpose so that their human agents could hold all the power and control over us, okay? See, their children, folks, are our rulers. Don't you get it? The blue bloods, right? The royals, these money funders, right? These MFers. These ones that claim to be the children of Yahweh, right? Well, that's because they are. Don't you get it? They are, folks. They probably have a higher percentage of the Anuna blood, of maybe the royal Anuna. And they think that gives them a right over us to use us like property, like slaves, right? Just like what I've told you guys, when you get the day you're born, you're a slave on earth. You get your social security number. Well, that number, there on the back of your social security card, there is a number on the back that's your stock exchange number. Okay, you're traded as a security on the national debt on the stock exchange. I think I was watching a Jordan Maxwell talk one time, and he was saying how his friend, who was like this economist and all this, that understood all of this stuff, was saying that like every human being, the day you're born, you're worth, like, it's crazy. It's like I don't know, $12 million or something like that, or I don't know. Maybe it was more than that, but the point I'm trying to make is, like, look, they trade us as commodities, okay? They don't see us as sovereign entities, as sovereign fractals of God, as gods experiencing human life on earth, they see us as cattle and they brand us, okay? And they use us our whole lives. Your whole life is designed to work for them, to make them rich and powerful, to give your power to them, to be a servant to them. That's why, like the Mudok of the Tao, if you get what I'm saying, right, calls us cattle. Think about it, cattle, branded, right? That's why your religion's Christianity calls you a sheep, right? Well, what's a sheep? Well, a sheep is protected by the sheepherder and his dogs against outside forces like wolves and mountain lions and such, right? And bears that would want to come eat the sheep. But the trick is, folks, is that the biggest predator of all is the sheepherder and his dogs. Because once your coats, once your labor, once your, what you've been collecting energy to produce, once all that is gets to a certain point, then they fleece you. They shear you. They take your labor, right? And then they may decide, well, hey, we need some meat and stuff. So, we've already fleeced this one a few times. Let's go ahead and send him to the butcher. And then you become food for the shepherd and his dogs. Because, some of those dogs may get some of that minced up meat and stuff, right? Think about this, folks. Your religion teaches you that your job is just to shut the F up, obey, take your fleecings, and eventually you get eaten or absorbed or wiped out at your shepherd's will. And you're told that that's a great thing to look forward to. I mean, I'm a sheep for Jesus. Oh, man. Oh, jeez. Oh, gosh. I'm sorry, folks. I can't get over it. The stupidity of the left and right is just unbelievable, man. I can't understand it sometimes. I mean, I wasn't meant for this world, folks. I really wasn't meant for this world because it's hard. It's getting harder and harder for me to try to put on the illusion that, or to live in this illusion. It's harder and harder to act like just to kind of blend into society, right? But you have to, right? Look, if I was to go walk into my work right now and start talking about all this stuff, oh my God, they'd be deriding me, laughing, talking crap about me, backstabbing me, like on and on and on. Some would be angry because they're Christians and, and on and on and on. And look, man, that's fine. That's their beliefs. But this is the type of stuff that most people cannot comprehend because they're not even self-aware. Somebody can read the Bible their whole life, but yet what I just told you about, about Genesis, just the simple. I mean, it even tells you, Genesis wasn't even lying to you, folks. It even tells you, the gods said, come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Not after the likeness of the creator of all, the spirit, right? The source. No, after them, the gods. Don't you get it? I mean, my gosh, folks, come on, man. This is really not hard to figure out. But somebody could spend their whole life going to church and reading the Bible, and they don't even understand that simple concept. Because now if they did, and they were like, wait, I thought Elohim's plural, El. Well, why does it say the gods and us and them? I don't understand. I mean, so then they'll go to Pastor Dan, and Pastor Dan's like, well, there, son, you shouldn't be questioning the Bible for one, but I'll explain to you what that means. Elohim is called, that was about the Trinity. Yeah, that was God the Son and the Holy Spirit. Don't you understand that, son? That's why it was Elohim. Elohim is all, the Alpha and the Omega. Elohim is, when you go and read the cuneiform, it's the same freaking stories. But it's this council of Anuna. Then you go read Elohim, the gods, come let us make man in our image after our likeness, just like Atrahasis. Then you're like, holy crap, it's the exact same story. The Bible wasn't lying. It was telling you. It's just the way you've been trained and teached and lied to. I hope that at least wakes up a few of you that are Christian. I mean, my God. Look, folks, there is nothing. Like, look, I venerate Yeshua. He's our brother. He came here to try to level up humanity and to wake us up from our slumber, okay? Just like Buddha did. Just like a lot of these master teachers have done. And then we turn them into gods in religion. And then the people that make money and power off of religion, guess what they do? They start whittling away at those teachings and they put it into a box, the cube of Saturn, to control the minds of their followers. So they don't want you understanding the deeper esoteric teachings, the deeper spiritual teachings. They just want you believing that just be a good slave and do what you're told and don't question. Okay? That's it, folks. Oh, and then you got to throw in that fear, right? The fear matrix. That's the final nail in most people's coffin, of ignorance. And that's, look, if these people start questioning too much, fine. You're going to hell if you question. You're going to hell if you don't believe in this God. You're going to hell if you don't follow this religion. If you're going to hell if you don't tithe to this church. Right? If you don't give Pastor Dan money, you're going to hell. You ain't going to have that ticket to check your way into heaven. Yeah, folks, it's all a scam, dude. It's all a lie. Don't you get it? These people that claim to be your spiritual teachers and such, these pastors and preachers and bishops and imams and I don't know, all these fucking clowns, rabbis and such, right? They're all liars, folks. They're all liars. And the ones that aren't lying, it's only because they're ignorant as, the masses are. And they've actually been programmed to the fact they actually believe the lie too. So they think they're teaching the truth, but they're teaching the lie that they've been lied to. Do you not get this? And then the ones that do figure it out, now, what are they going to do, right? Now they start realizing, they actually start maybe doing the research. And either they have a choice. They can leave that religion. They can start teaching people the truth of what they figured out, right? Like there are some people you'll find that have done this. Like Paul Wallace, right? He does great work, by the way. He was an Anglican, like a higher level, like whatever the Anglican church is. I don't know. He was a bishop or something. I can't remember exactly, but he started figuring out all these things, and his teachings are great. So look, what are they going to do? A lot of them will just accept the fact that they know they're lying to their parishioners, and they'll just keep doing it because they have a house, a mortgage to pay for. They got cars, and they're probably living better than you folks too, by the way. I'm just letting you know. Okay? They're probably living better than you off your money and your labor to teach you lies. And once they realize that they've been teaching lies this whole time, they have that choice. Either become like hated by, their religion because they leave it and start teaching something different than what they've been teaching their whole life. Or they just continue lying and just, hey, I got to do this till I can retire, right? I got to pay this mortgage. I got to, I got to survive, right? So just saying, folks, like, look, these pastors, I'm not saying all of them. Look, I know there's some small churches that the pastor has a full-time job and then he's a pastor on the weekends or whatever. But I'm talking about these mega churches where these like freaking pastors are 6-figure income salaries and they got benefits, insurance, like all. That's their job, right? They're living off your labor and they don't work a real job, folks. They lie to you. That's it, dude. Just telling you the truth. I mean, take it or leave it. So, folks, look, I'm going to have to do another one here. I'm sorry. We need to get more into the technical side of this because that's what really ties in this last age, right? At least of this part of the movie. But you need to understand all of the backstory of the Essenes, of the Anuna, right? The Garden of Eden, all these things. You got to understand the Atrahasis, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Like, you need to learn all this stuff, folks, because then it paints the picture, okay? And look, folks, I'm not an expert in Egyptian. That's why I don't go over the Egyptian stuff as much as like Sumerian and all that. But look, all the same allegories, all the same stuff you'll find in Egypt too, okay? It's not my specialty. It's one that I've always been fascinated by Egypt, but I find even more fascinating the cuneiform stories. So That's why I'm like more entrenched in the Sumerian version of all this. But the Egyptians have it too. Like, right? They talk about the pre-pharaonic rulers that were not human, you know, Thoth and Ra and such that ruled, for tens of thousands of years, just like the Sumerian Kings list talks about these pre-Diluvian, pre-flood rulers that lived for, some of them tens of thousands of years. And of course, archaeologists scoff at all that and stuff because they're ignorant. Look, man, the left is just as ignorant and totally programmed as the right, folks, okay? I mean, they're ridiculously so. I mean, they're literally gods and they deny divinity. They think they came from pond scum and monkeys. I mean, my God, these people are really dense, really programmed by the universities and such. So look, I know I hammer on the right, and that's because I tend to most of the time lean a little more to the right, though. I'm more of a centered person, but I was in that place. I fell for the lies of Christianity and all that. And not for the teachings of Yeshua. I want you to understand that, folks, but for the religion of Christianity, okay? I'm just making that clear to you. So, anyways, guys, we'll pick this up again tomorrow. We're going to have to do a 5th installment. I know I told you I'd do it in 3, but folks, I know I like to talk and I let the universe lead me in these talks. I don't plan any of these talks, folks. I get in my car, I get my coffee, I take my shower in the morning, I'm heading to work, and I just start my talk, okay? This is all just off of all of the various stuff I research and just trying to connect the dots, and I'm trying to explain it simple to people, okay? I'm not like, look at this verse, blah, 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 look at this cuneiform, this line and that line. No, look, I tell you guys, go read this stuff for yourself and see what you think. I'm just getting a consensus in my own mind of all of this information that I've taken in, and I'm trying to connect it all. And you'll find it all connects, okay? So yeah, maybe tomorrow, I promise you guys, I won't even get into the ancient stuff. We'll just go. I won't get into the Essenes and Yeshua, the more like 2,000 years ago, like time period. We're just going to just shoot right into like exactly what they're doing now with the technology, okay? I did touch on that, I think, in the second talk, but I said I would get into it on the 3rd, but here we are getting ready done with the 4th, and I keep going back to the ancient stuff, but it's because you need to figure this stuff out, folks. Look, we're following in the footsteps of the Inuna. We're doing the exact same thing with robotics that they did with humans, okay? I'm sure eventually they'll have synthetic skin and they'll figure out a way to have some kind of robotic DNA, and they'll probably add some of our DNA to them to make them more human-like, and who knows, okay? I'm just saying, the Inuna tinkered with our DNA. They hybridized a hominid, worker-slave class. And we're getting ready to do the same thing with robotics and AI that the Inuna did with humanity. Okay? Same story, different time period. Okay? So, hey guys, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Don't forget, if you're interested in doing a one-on-one Zoom with me, I will give my time to you for your donation. And there's details about that in my descriptions. So just message me. Or the best way, though, is to go join me on Exit the Matrix Reborn. The link is in the comments. Or sorry, not comments, the description. That's my new page if I ever get my other Exit the Matrix page back. That's the new one. Message me there on Messenger, okay? That's the best way we can kind of privately talk instead of trying to do it openly here on YouTube in the comments, okay? So if you're interested in that, let me know. But hey guys, anyways, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you later.